Liar. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Monday, July 29th, 2024. I was just thinking how I wish if only I had like a Kamala Harris voice, or if I had the foresight to have Kamala Harris come in and substitute for me today. That would have been a fantastic coup. Hey, nothing happened while we were away. Just to catch you up, I know a lot of you were thinking, well, what a terrible week for you to be off the air. And a lot of people very kindly, I think, saying, we really wish we had you and Greg and Joan and hell, I wish we had Darwin and Rosalind McGregor and everybody on the air to tell us what they think of all this and to give us their takes. My argument is that the best thing that could have happened was for us to be off the air so that you could just watch the news, revel in it. It went beautifully. You know, everything was well coordinated. They rolled it out nicely. The Kamala Harris campaign has hit the ground running, and they didn't need any help from us, certainly. And our takes were out there. First of all, they were out on social media, I guess. But second of all, our takes were out there because you were out there. Your takes are our takes. We have a community of people that can provide those takes if I'm not there to do it. And you found them, and they were you, and vice versa. And probably the best thing to have happen was for us to be out of the way. In fact, we arranged it that way. The Kamala Harris campaign contacted us ahead of time, told us it was going to happen, said, go take a vacation. Go to the least democratic places you can think of. All right, fine. Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, that's where I'll hang out for the week. And you go ahead and do this. It really was something. It was good for me. It was good for you. It was good for America, all the things that happened. And I think being able to absorb them without additional clutter, hand-wringing worry might have been a particularly good thing for our small section of the community. For the rest of the country, they didn't know we were doing a show anyway, so it was fine. But the coordinated campaign went, as I said, beautifully. I don't think they could have executed it better. It's going to be a very exciting time. All the things that we learned when she ran the first time about, the things that I learned because I didn't know anything about it, but things that may have already been second nature to some of you about the fraternities and sororities, the black sororities and fraternities in particular, at those based very often, but not always, at historically black colleges and universities, but of course on campuses all over the country. When we learned a little bit about just how different the approach to fraternities and sororities was for them, and that it's not at all the same thing as, what people traditionally think of when they're not thinking of black fraternities and sororities. The frat boys at colleges, no. Totally different. And I think really after I learned about the names of the different fraternities and sororities, and the sororities in particular, I think, in all of this, but certainly strong on both sides here, that just how dedicated people remained throughout their lifetimes. And I began to sort of notice the signs of it, like, look at all the license plate frames that are around for Alpha, Kappa, Alpha. That was her sorority in particular. Kamala Harris is one of the big ones. There are many others. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all of them offhand, but I've come to recognize some of them. And you see how often these things pop up and say, the fact that they were immediately out and saying, we're going to be doing voter registration drives. We're going to be doing get out the vote efforts. They're going to be doing fundraising, of course. And you realize just how widespread this phenomenon really is. And this is just a small corner of the support for Kamala Harris. And it doesn't even include, by the way, the very excited Indian American community, and which is particularly large in my area as well. So, I don't know. This is going to be pretty exciting and supercharging. Plus, of course, it was just a relief to have some exciting news happen after weeks and weeks of speculation about what would happen with Joe Biden. So it was very exciting, and I didn't have to be there for you, I don't think, to carry you through it. The only thing I missed was how much excitement there was and the opportunity to sort of, I don't know, get on the air every day and talk about how exciting it was to watch all the excitement. But I'm here now to do that, and we've had a weekend to digest. Then the Olympics started, and people have moved on to all of that. Speaking of moving on, almost nobody remembers this, but Donald Trump was shot at, anyway, a little while ago. Oh, and also it's been about, 9 weeks that he has been a convicted felon. I thought it would be wise to remind you of that after all this time as well. And people have forgotten about the shooting already. There's even articles in the newspaper that I could lean on for more discussion if necessary about how that has all sort of dissipated and everyone has pretty much forgotten about it. And there was this weird attempt at, speaking of weird, we'll have to talk about weird as well, weird attempt at creating unity around Donald Trump somehow because he was standing around when something bad happened, but he's usually standing around when something bad happens. That's not news, and that has all gone by the wayside. Everybody kind of knew it was garbage to begin with. No one wants to unify around that guy, even if you shoot him, so... Anyway, Greg Dworkin is here. He might have been sorry to be off the air for a week, but I had a good time. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Peabody. Gee, let's go back in the Wayback Machine. We don't have to worry about not being here because you left and it was 2024 and you came back and it's 2008.
Yeah, all right. I know I'm sort of beginning to measure will this be an even bigger motivational machine than Obama was able to produce? And maybe because he didn't have the Greek system behind him. I don't think he was a member of any fraternity or sorority in college, and fine, he was concentrating on his studies.
He took the Groucho Marx approach, just like many of us did.
Sure.
I won't be a member of a club that'll have me.
Right, and everybody understands that feeling. But yeah, it'll be different this time. That'll be fun.
Right. Or although, it's different in different places, as you pointed out. At MIT, where I went to undergrad, I lived in a fraternity because those were the living groups.
Yes. I went to a place that was also very heavily
It was that or
Greek,
the dorm, and I wasn't.
But I still didn't do it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very, there's no doubt that it's still a vibrant thing, but it's a different thing. And you don't experience Greek life the same way, and they don't view it the same way. And it's very much a mutual commitment to advancement for themselves and their brothers and sisters in a way that it's supposed to be at the core of the Greek system everywhere, but it isn't.
It's not even sisters, it's sorors. And,
yes, right.
You don't have to know the individual call letters to understand there's something called a Divine Nine, even if you can't name them. And it's just a completely different thing. There was a wonderful thread by a white lady explaining to her sisters that they are sorors, you are sisters, and if you didn't have the experience, don't appropriate all the terms. Let them do it.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's
don't touch
probably
it.
wise.
It's really a very good thread.
General.
I posted it for you just at the bottom here. Just, some general tips. AKA is one of 9 black Greek letter organizations unified under the National Pan-Hellenic Council, 4 women's orgs, 5 men's, the Divine Nine. Ivy and pearls are AKA symbols, pink and green. Symbols, gestures, and insignia are not ours to post or wear in solidarity. You do it if you're them. You don't do it if you're not them, just so you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's fair enough. There's plenty of good. They got a lot of YouTube videos that they share among themselves, and of course you're free to view any of those. But songs, rituals, dances.
Don't
it's
do
actually.
The dances.
Oh well, you
it's
can't.
Not TikTok. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
Not that you.
That was not going to happen anyway.
You making
right.
a TikTok of
I'm
yourself
definitely going to try this.
But don't do it.
Nope. Yeah. Regardless of what they may mean symbolically, I don't think I can do that one. That's not something I can do. And part of that may also be age as well. But
right. But still.
I wasn't going to try.
So in any case,
it's really
you
great.
go away, and the mood is depressed.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, everybody.
And 75% of the population, the public, the voting public, adults, and those who are near adult,
Yeah.
Those who are,
Adult
between 25 and 35, almost adults. So, the voting public.
Yes. Them.
Said, we want somebody other than Biden and Harris. And Biden goes from a disastrous debate. Have I mentioned that on the show?
No, I missed it.
A wonderful statesman who put country over himself, let alone party.
I don't even know how that works.
So it's country, party, self, and he steps down, and now Republicans are all upset that people are being nice to Biden. What did he do? He was pushed out. How dare you say that he did this for the good of the country? Well, Maduro was pushed out, but he's not leaving. I mean, there's plenty of examples of, they don't want you, but I'm staying.
Yes.
It's not Groucho Marx. It's not where it must be going.
It's the opposite. The other guy, they're shooting at you, they're convicting you of crimes, they're beating you at the polls, they're saying you're weird. Why won't you leave?
Okay, so this happens. Biden steps down. Harris steps up. The New York Times had a very nice analogy. They said it was like two high-speed trains where people on the one train are throwing luggage to the other train. And so you seamlessly, amazing. These are Democrats we're talking about. I don't belong to an organized party. I'm a Democrat. Seamlessly switch over from one to the other. And all of a sudden, with the same people, the campaign is much better. It's the Dark Brandon people finally got to be in charge.
Yeah, that's true. There was there's a little more room for that operation. And it's been great, and they've been responding the way, you and I would.
And she's everywhere. Hope. So her first couple of rollouts, her first speeches were just absolutely fantastic. Short, pithy, everything you would want.
It's like she's been waiting and training.
Are ebullient, and the polls are showing it. She's making up 6-8 point deficits literally overnight. Hey. 253 million raised in the week on Act Blue, and that's small donors, 66% of whom are first-time donors.
Hey, all right.
First time, long time. So it's just incredible, and she's building on that. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is the way that she made up the deficit that Biden had in the polls is by consolidating Democrats. We haven't even gotten to the normies yet. But there she is on the cover of New York Magazine, and she's everywhere. And they're going to find out. She laughs. She's a mensch. She's a nice person. She has incredible personal stories to tell that you maybe never heard of, like the time she was in high school and her best friend was being sexually abused. Did you hear that story? So she invites the girl to live with her for a year, and she does, and that's how she became interested in sexual abuse and became a prosecutor. That's her story.
Oh, all right. That's it. Oh, by the way, she's a prosecutor. That's also good for this other guy who's running.
Right. So the Trump campaign, on the other hand, got shot at, had their Republican National Convention, and basically got no bump.
Well, they nominated
when I say no
weirdo.
Bump, I mean they got no bump. This is ABC Ipsos out yesterday. It's not a horse race poll. It's a favorable and unfavorable poll. Harris, July 19th through 20th, 35-46. Harris, July 26-27, 43-42.
Okay.
And she went from 26 favorable to 44 favorable with independents. Trump.
They had reason to rank her now.
July 19th, 20th, 40-51. After all of this stuff, July 26-27, 36-52. Trump gets shot at, has the RNC, and drops his favorables.
Yeah. That's, he had hoped to ride a surge of sympathy. I mean, why not? If you're going to get shot, you might as well.
This is funny.
And it didn't work.
Vance, July 19th, 20th, 25-31, July 26th, 27, 24-39. So he doesn't raise his favorables at all.
Well, no.
He drops them.
Well, he's had a week as well.
He's had a week. He's weird. And so, Harris and the surrogates in the campaign led by Tim Walz The new guy on the block, the Walsh-pilled guy from Minnesota, who's just wonderful on social media, says, look, these people are just weird. And the Harris campaign, deft and nimble, picks it up and says, they're all weird. And they just keep on putting out press releases that say so. And you know what? They are.
And doing it in language calculated, well, I mean, maybe it's just natural to them, but calculated to appeal to a certain age group. Yeah, but not just that he's weird.
Are the surrogates who can communicate, and they just say it, and it's like, oh yeah, they are.
The print release that I saw, of course it was digital by the time I saw it, but from the Harris campaign, it had a very deft touch to it, but just saying that, it was like a bullet point, and it said somewhere that Trump is old, which he is, and why not? We're all primed for that now. But Trump is old and quite weird, ? Like, what is it with this guy?
What is it with these weird people?
Yeah. And it was, I don't know what it was, but it doesn't capture any of the serious problems with Trump, and lots of people spending the weekend saying, that's not weird, that's criminal, or that's not weird, that's sexual assault. But I know. But this encompasses everything about
everything. Let me, and you need
and
it.
Everybody got
sticker.
it.
You need it simple. And,
you can't fit all those crimes.
Harris can prosecute this case. Let me give you a prebuttal to some of your worries and concerns from David Rothkopf, who tweeted.
Those.
2 out of the last 3 Democratic presidential nominees have been women. 2 out of the last 4 have been people of color. 3 out of the last 3 tickets have had women on them. 3 out of the last 4 have had people of color on them. Democrats have won the popular vote in all of these elections. And the electoral in 3 out of 4. These are trends to celebrate. Stop worrying about the fact that she's a black woman. Start celebrating the fact that she's a black woman.
Okay. I guess that there was going to be that out there.
I still don't want Whitmer on the ticket. I don't think they're ready for 2 women. Have doubts about Buttigieg because I'm not sure that they're ready for a black woman and a gay man. But he is from Indiana, so that makes up for a lot.
Okay. I don't know how they're going to fit that puzzle together, but they...
Well, we'll talk about that after the break because
they have
a lot to say about the VP candidates because they're all good and they all have flaws. But my point is you can be Walsh-pilled because Tim Walsh is just a wonderful communicator and he picked the simplest, easiest message to get to normies. We're talking about people who get their news from People magazine, and so it's really important.
Well, they've been on the ball lately.
Yeah,
somehow.
And it's really important that you just, make it simple, make it short, make it sweet. And Harris and her campaign are doing that. Biden is doing the supportive role. Today, I think, or tomorrow, I think it's today. He's going to Texas to the LBJ library. He's going to talk about Supreme Court reform. He's going to talk about 3 proposals, an ethics
binding
reform
ethics code,
that's going to be binding. Yes, thank you. That's the word I was searching for in my senior moment. 18-year limited terms.
Yeah, still quite a while.
Okay, and a constitutional amendment saying presidents aren't legally immune for crimes they commit in office. And Harris has signed on to it. Biden introduces it. Harris has said, yep, that's what our team wants. But I'm the nominee and I'm the one that'll make it happen. So this is from Politico. The election has been totally upended. Here's what the polls show. It's clear the presidential contest is shuffled.
Okay, fair.
Right? Trump still maintains a slim edge over Harris. And again, what I have to emphasize is that went from -6 to -1 because Democrats consolidated. They're not done yet. And they still haven't picked up the normies and all the new registrants, all the new people who are voting, all the young people that don't make the polls because they don't answer the polls. So I think we're in excellent shape with a lot of room to grow. They aren't.
Yeah. And of course, next comes, soon, the convention, which is the big show that's designed to make everybody who can be excited about an election excited about the election. So that may also help things.
And then JD Vance, who's just weird.
Yeah, well,
and so,
my God.
People have pointed out there's nothing to the couch story. In other words, it didn't really happen. It's not written anywhere. It was made up.
People have pointed that out.
But
it's odd.
People have also pointed out Democrats come in with their 25-point bullet list of things to say.
Yeah.
And as somebody on Twitter said, so they come with these long lists and some Gen Zer makes up this crap about, JD Vance fornicating with a couch, and now it's all over, and you can't unsee it.
I don't know.
And that's how it works, folks.
I don't know if I can explain really exactly how it works, but I will say somebody just hit the jackpot with it, because I've seen people try, or heard about people trying to just sort of inject some, even a totally made up meme into the lexicon, and it only works a certain amount.
You can't make fetch happen, as the oldsters used to say. And when it's organic, it just happens, and there's nothing you could do about it. I'll give you an example. This is the New York City Sanitation Department.
Okay.
And they have a little picture of a love seat.
Aye.
Stained, and it says, "Have a couch you just don't love anymore." Set it out the night before in your trash-only collection day, and we'll take it.
Yeah, and everybody now reads into it.
Well, it's a subtweet.
Yeah.
No, it's not a subtweet. It doesn't matter. It's all over the place.
Yeah. By the way, the best example that I saw was that I guess it got picked up internationally, because, how does it not? If the whole country is talking about, well, maybe the guy nominated for vice president by one major party had sex with a couch. Maybe not. I don't know. But so people were talking about it. But I guess in Norway, they were covering it, and they were doing the responsible, reporting thing. Fact-checking things. Although that was the real gas on the fire was AP did a fact check and said, no, we didn't have sex with the couch. And then they weirdly
pulled the article.
Yeah, and everybody just said, well, that obviously means he did.
That, got back our editorial.
I think that did it.
Policy. Yeah. Well, what the hell are you, NPR?
That was pretty weird. But then a Norwegian paper likewise printed a headline that read in Norwegian, translated, no, he didn't have sex with the couch. But Norwegian for no, he didn't have sex with a couch is what looks like you and I would read in English as had icky sex med couch. Yes, what? Well, oh, no. He had icky sex with a couch or sofa.
Firstly, it's not a couch, it's a love seat. And secondly, this is a New Yorker cartoon with JD Vance lying on the couch for a therapy session. And the therapist says to him, JD, may I ask why you keep referring to these sessions as couples therapy? You can't avoid this. You may think it's not fair game. You can be high-minded and snooty about you shouldn't say this because it's not true. We don't want to be just like them. F that. It's all over. Too bad. Deal with it.
Look, I'm not the person who created a public persona that people would believe that about.
Tina Fey was exaggerating Sarah Palin. Yes, and your point is what?
Yeah. Look, with all this stuff, all these crazy things that circulated, or this one is weird, or that one is weird, and of course, so many
Sarah
weird
Palin never said I
of,
could see Russia from my point.
Right.
And your point is what?
She said so many other things. She would say something like that. Everyone gets exactly why it was kind of, why it was okay, why it worked. And these people are weird. And look, elections have swung on far less. Dukakis looked weird in a hat once. Oh, yes. God, that.
Helmet, yes,
right.
Tank.
Well, that'll do it. That's the end of the election. Al Gore sighed once. Oh, no. Okay.
See, but here's the thing. If Thomas Jefferson is a 1 and Dan Potato Head Quayle is a 10, Vance is a 13.
How is this working? I guess.
Maybe you put Palin at 11, but Palin had charisma. After that Republican National Convention, people on the Democratic side were afraid of her because she was making connections.
Fancy pageant walking as well.
Nobody's afraid of JD Vance.
No. Well, he too is very, very weird.
So
minus the couch.
I sent it to you.
And
Maybe
the dolphin.
You can see it up after the break, but there's a Trey Gowdy introduction on Fox News before he interviews JD Vance. You have to hear it. It's just astounding.
Okay, that will be interesting. If Trey Gowdy thinks you're weird, that guy's got a triangular head.
Exactly. You got this pinhead with his head coming to a point on TV telling you JD Vance is weird. You got to hear it.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can't rig that. You want to give it the break to rig it up to see if it works? Okay. That seems like a good idea. Why? Was there other news?
Now, but the break gives you a moment or two.
Right. But let's just talk about how weird everybody is instead. And we can do this. This is I don't know. Weird is unifying. as a target. It encompasses so very much and does a lot of work and makes it bumper stickery. And whoever wants to this is one of the problems with, I guess with targeting Trump. Everybody kind of hates him for various reasons, but here's
the thing. Right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be on the high ground, the moral high ground, to talk about the most important issue, saving democracy, or do you want to win the election?
Okay.
In which case you just say, look, the guy's weird.
Yeah. And everybody can plug their own issue into it, and side issues, but people will argue.
That's the thing about Kamala. Nobody knows her. So like Obama, you get to paint her with whatever picture you want. This is Jill Lawrence, who just published this moment. Suddenly the election is about weird versus normal. Existential dread isn't saving democracy. Maybe making the campaign a referendum on weirdness will work. Asked Tim Walsh. It will.
Why not? It encompasses everything. It allows everybody to plug in their issues. And
you can
there's
also talk
so
about
much
democracy. You can talk about January 6th. You can talk
Those
about
are all weird
insurrection.
things.
By the way, they're weird.
Yes.
It's
democracy is normal.
It just lends itself to everything, and it's your closing argument.
Yeah. So it should be interesting, exciting, well executed. Everybody has room for understanding that he's weird and that the normies are coming back.
He's
Good.
old and weird.
Yeah, well, he is,
and
it's not even just that. All right, well, fine, we'll fix that problem. We'll get JD Vance. Well, he's young.
JD Vance is a guy you wouldn't want to sit near at a restaurant. You want to cross the street when he comes near you. He's a creep.
Yes,
it's all true.
It was always true of Trump, and it's amazing that he decided to balance the ticket with someone, if not weirder, then certainly just as weird. And it's like you have nobody else to draw from. He was an extremely online pick. I was able to sneak that in before the break, and as it turns out, everybody's getting what that means. He comes from a weird niche, and when the rest of the country finds out what a weird person he is, it only makes Trump look weirder. That's not good for them. Terrific for me. I had a great time.
Sup, fam? It's your boy Darwin, a.k.a. Darwin_Darko, a.k.a. the most reasonable man in America, a.k.a. KITM's senior black correspondent. You might remember me from such recordings as Spacemen versus Space Cadets and We Need to Talk About Joe Biden. Today, I want to bring you good news about that thing you've been struggling with. Do you suffer from giving too much of a damn? Do you turn on the series of tubes and find yourself outraged at the particular way some news organization strung some sentences together only to realize, nope, this is not some fictional hellscape? Well, guess what? You no longer have to accept the life of giving too much of a damn. You can do something about it, because even you, yes you, can be a show contributor. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, Mr. Most Reasonable Man in America, I'm not some professional podcast talking guy. Don't worry about it. Do you have a smartphone or some other electronic recording device? Well, that's all you need. You too can have a segment where you can read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Fair warning though, side effects may include general punditry, having opinions and hot takes, getting stuff off your chest, and hearing your own voice. If your recording lasts longer than 5 to 7 minutes, please consult kagrox@gmail.com. That's KAGROX@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Roots Radio. We did some engineering and some poking around. I think I have the thing all queued up. Just to remind everybody, Trey Gowdy, still alive, as it turns out. And working for Fox News, former member of Congress for about, 15, 20 minutes. And a real weirdo. And what was his thing? He was like leading the charge of the Benghazi investigation type thing that was actually, and he was the one that let it slip, I think, too, wasn't he? They all did, but he was the first one to say, yeah, we're just investigating her.
And they also said it about
lose the election.
Impeachment. And just a reminder to folks, with only 100 days left, they don't have time to do that to Kamala.
Yes, right. They don't have any not only do they never have any reason.
When you see the T-shirt with a comma and then L-A, Kamala, that's the thing.
Is it okay? I wasn't sure which thing it was going to. Oh, over the weekend there was something about coconuts, and I never quite got it, and I wasn't afraid to find out.
You didn't just fall out of a coconut tree, said her mom to Kamala.
Okay.
You're part of everything that came before you and everything that is.
Ah, okay.
So it's a whole thing.
All right. I was just wondering.
But if you're coconut filled, you'll get it. In any case, that's who Trey Gowdy is. He's from yesterday. But,
his head is shaped like a coconut.
He did this, like in modern times, so it's worth hearing.
So, all right, here he is. He's on, as we said,
he's about to interview JD Vance, and this is his introduction to the Fox News
so
audience.
Weird looking. He looks like he's AI generated, and it was a mistake.
Well, he is.
Yeah, I guess so. So he moved from Republican congressman to Fox News host, anchor. What is he doing? Is a opinion show? What is it?
I don't know. I think it's like it's an opinion show.
Maybe. All right. Well, he's very weird looking, and he is here to tell you how weird JD Vance is. This is the intro to a JD Vance interview,
which David hasn't heard yet.
I haven't heard yet, so this is one of those we can do YouTubes of me reacting to it for the first time or something like that. It's a very hot genre. Okay, and it's 1 minute and 52, so we'll maybe break it up a little bit so that YouTube doesn't drop our video. So okay, which isn't even a video.
I've watched that interview many times, and you should too, in full, and draw your own conclusions.
Of JD Vance.
When that interview surfaced, two things leapt to my mind. Those of us who talk for a living make mistakes. We say things that in hindsight we might phrase differently or better or not at all. And then I thought about a stormy day at Reagan National Airport where I met two women desperately trying to get home to South America. I was trying to get home to South Carolina. We spent the whole day together, finally making it to Charlotte, and then somehow we got them on a flight to Houston. They were headed to visit family in South America before returning to their new home called
Okay, whatever. It's a long wind-up, but here we go. Returning to their new home called
America.
Oh, I've heard of that.
And when we parted ways, they said they'd like to pray for me as their way of saying thanks for the day spent together.
Sure, great.
And I assured them it's too late to help me. But I do have a friend who's expecting, and she got some tough news about her unborn child. Would they please pray for her instead? And they did.
Okay.
And they still do to this day. They're Catholic nuns, childless, dedicated to God, love this country, living lives of service to others. And it's not just Catholic nuns. Some of the finest people I know don't have children. Teachers and guidance counselors and lawyers and doctors, and they love other people's children.
Does Trey have any?
Teach and guide and protect and minister to them. Some people choose not to have children. Others desperately want them, but they can't. And a moment
you getting the point here?
Yeah, this is
his audience.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, it was well, okay. I should roll the rest of it. I was wondering if anybody would finally say this. Certainly, there would need to be a Republican would admit to this because a lot of them. Okay.
We have never met before, but we have many friends in common who tell me that he is smart and he is talented and he is more than capable. None is perfect, no, not one. That's what the good book says. And the American people are forgiving if we ask.
Okay.
And he isn't asking. You know, somebody pointed out, it's just really weird because JD Vance is a generational change.
Yes.
Here's a guy who, if you look at what he wrote when he was a teenager, it's fine. But if you look at him as an adult politician, it's awful.
Interesting.
It's usually the other way around.
Yeah. You know what? That's weird.
That is weird. Everything about him is weird.
Yeah. That was also a very big focus of the week, besides the couch. And there was also a dolphin thing and a monkey thing. I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's all assuredly true that it was printed somewhere. And the evolution that he too went through. I don't know if he would profess to believe in evolution, but there are lots of people who have known him through his relatively short life. Certainly, since as an educated adult, short life, and he's lived his life in the online era. They all have electronic records of his communications with them, and as it turns out, if nothing else, then you can at least say, look, he's established a record of being super, we'll say, flexible about values and core beliefs, and that's not going to work very well for this.
So here's from Joe Lawrence. Donald Trump is old and quite weird. He's someone you wouldn't want to sit near at a restaurant. JD Vance is a creep. He would empower states to track women's menstrual cycles and federal authorities to block them from crossing state lines for abortions. The pair is bizarre. They're strange. Yes. Behold the Harris for President campaign's increasingly favored line of attack, an approach credited to both Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Vice President Kamala Harris herself. The Vance is a creep email I got made me blink in surprise, but by the time the weird guy in restaurant statement showed up a few hours later with the word strange in the subject line, I laughed. Who wouldn't relate to that? Could it be that Democrats are onto something?
Yeah, they definitely are. And I'm kind of amazed at how long it took to settle on a word that everybody understood and agreed on with Trump. And it's mostly because people have been tied up in their own profanity-laced tirades about him. And
Joe Biden won in 2020, she writes, by channeling angst into a campaign to save the soul of America and protect its democracy, but high-minded defenses of our principles or elegant rhetorical phrases aren't doing the job. Neither is existential dread.
Right.
Trump shouldn't have had a chance in hell, but he does. Time to try something new.
Yeah, and I think this, what can I tell you? It's it.
Weird,
it fits.
Strange. They're descriptive words.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
use them.
I can't believe it didn't get landed on already, but I guess we were, trying to describe exactly what's going on with some precision, and it's like, well, weird kind of encompasses. The guy even was reportedly for, several weeks in a row, and I don't know what happened to it. It was reported. That guy this guy even smells weird. How is it not, that everybody is saying this sort of thing?
Well, that's why you don't want to sit next to him in a restaurant.
Right.
Look, there's two potential upsides to this, she writes. One's this year's uniquely abbreviated 100-day campaign. I'm all about abbreviated,
Yes,
I do the abbreviated pundit roundup. I get abbreviated. I get chaos agent. But when you only have 100 days, it also means you don't have a lot of time to define yourself and the other person. Harris is just jumping in with both feet. It's wonderful. And I think that they should hire some consultants from the UK because they're used to having, 6-week elections.
That too was pointed out as people were fretting about the ability to substitute one candidate for another. People pointing out every other democracy in the world.
Not even an issue anymore.
Yeah, well, there's that, and then of course just the time frame. Everybody else in the world
relaxed there. If it's not Biden, who should it be? Let's go on.
Yeah. Well,
you missed
should have
you
been
were away.
Thank
it's
God.
history.
And it worked the way we hoped that it would. Even before we left, we said, well, if you're going to make a switch, I mean, we already have a system set up. Like, why not use the person that you said you were going to use?
Right. Now, I was ready to switch before you. I was ready to switch before Armando. But all of us were like, look, if you're going to switch, it's Harris. Like, there's not even any other discussion. And that, in fact, turned out to be exactly the case. And so Pelosi and some of the others were trying to make a framework for this could happen so it wouldn't be from the top. But it wasn't from the top. This is entirely organic, just like the $253 million raised, just like the Divine Nine, just like the 178,000 volunteers that have signed up for the campaign in a week.
Yeah.
This is all new stuff. And it's all organic. It's coming from the bottom. You don't have to worry about it. It's done. So you have this pointing out the obvious. Look, that guy's weird.
Yes.
And then the other, Jill Lawrence points out, is the Vance effect. Basically, you bring him in and you reinforce, oh, yeah, you want weird?
That's weird. Yeah, like it's almost as if there was no other candidate that could have made things worse. Like Trump is a disaster all to himself, but how could could anybody who's so comprehensively awful find someone who would be a drag on his ticket? It's really hard to do. And there you go. That they found the guy. And it's amazing. And it's disturbing and well, you're left with weird, I guess. The other thing I was thinking of, I guess, just looking at all the weird things and people circulating there's a huge portfolio of photographic evidence of Trump's weirdness. So it's an unending stream. Everybody has their own idea of what's the weirdest picture of Trump. And when I saw this parade of them go by and I saw the pictures of Trump the way he, I guess still does, hugging and somewhat sexually molesting flags on stage.
Well, look at his tie. I mean, everything about
that too. Right. Well, that's why weird is such a terrific thing. But Yeah, I was looking at one of the pictures of him.
It's a catch-all, as you said, but it's just perfect. And then Vance just comes in and reinforces
it makes it worse. And when I saw the one again about the flag that he's humping this flag, and people are like, after the weekend of stories about couches and dolphins and whatever, I was just like, there's nobody. Could anybody make this idea worse? And the whole ticket won't leave the furnishings alone. It's weird. I remember
if we talked about it on the show before you left, but everybody's now convinced that the reason he keeps bringing up Hannibal Lecter is that he doesn't understand the difference between an insane asylum and asylum for political reasons. He thinks asylum is asylum.
Okay, that may be because,
there's no other explanation for continuously bringing up Hannibal Lecter other than the fact that he wants Jodie Foster to speak at the DNC and endorse Harris.
Oh, maybe. I really can't figure that whole thing. I mean, I don't know how he landed on it first. I guess the second, third, and 500th time, I'm telling you. I gotta laugh at
He thinks it's insane asylum.
Could be. I don't know how it got in there the first time, but afterwards it was, people laughed, so I'm just going to keep saying it. I don't know why. I don't know why I said it the first time.
About what JD Vance does with couches. You're missing the point.
All right. Well, weird is weird.
Weird is weird because they're all weird. So there is a really good pair of political scientists, Christopher Devine and Kyle Kopko, and they've written books about how you pick the vice presidential candidate. And as I pointed out to them on Twitter, I interviewed them for Daily Kos 4 years ago when they had their book, and I said, on your tombstone it's going to be written, we were popular every 4 years.
Yeah, there's worse.
So they've written the books about how you pick a vice presidential candidate. Relevant for both sides. First of all, do no harm, of course.
Whoops.
But it's not about whether or not you can carry your state. You almost never do.
Oh.
That's not a reason to pick Shapiro.
Okay. Oh, I see where you're going. All right.
Right. It's not a reason to pick Harris. Mark Kelly. It's not a reason for Harris to pick Mark Kelly.
She's very busy.
That's not the reason why you pick a vice presidential candidate. The main number one reason why you pick a vice presidential candidate isn't that they bring something to the ticket that you don't have, although that's part of it. It isn't just balancing the ticket, male, female, Midwest, California. It's not just that. The main number one Dave Letterman reason why you pick a vice presidential candidate is it shows something about your judgment. Did you pick somebody who was serious and a good choice, as Biden did with Harris, as Obama did with Biden? Or do you pick JD Vance, who's weird?
That's definitely a judgment thing. And, I mean,
that's what people judge your choice on.
By midweek,
normies don't sit around and say, well, I saw the polls in Pennsylvania showing Shapiro is 10 points higher than anybody else.
That's not normal.
No. It's like, is he ready? If he's not ready, if Andy Bashir is great but not ready, it says something about you. And that's why I think Harris is more likely to pick somebody who she's comfortable with, like Roy Cooper, or somebody who carries something that she wants. Maybe Mark Kelly because of the border, because of the man card. I mean, he's a veteran and he's an astronaut and he has Gabby Giffords and like what else can you need? So, but the point is, whatever the pick is, it's not going to be about the pick. It's going to be about the candidate. That's what doomed John McCain ultimately. No matter how popular Sarah Palin was to the proto-MAGA people at that convention, didn't matter because by the time the election came around, she was a ditz. Everybody saw it. Thank you, Tina Fey. Thank you, SNL. And what did that say about McCain's judgment? Coupled with McCain suspending the campaign because nobody knows why. So he could rush back to Washington and talk with Lindsey Graham or something on TV. Nobody could figure that out. So it's about your judgment. And that's why Harris, is trying to figure this out. Trump has already shown his judgment by picking
Holy
JD
moly.
Vance. He wanted Doug Bergen, they said. And then his sons convinced him to pick Vance because he was going to win in a landslide anyway, so you might as well go for the legacy thing. Stupid judgment, but that's what people are going to vote on in November. So Harris can take her time. But again, 100 days, what does that mean? It means that the Olympics are on right now, so nobody's paying attention to politics.
Right,
then you have the VP choice.
3 weeks
Then you have
gone.
the Democratic National Convention.
2 weeks.
And then it's Labor Day. And so Trump doesn't have a chance to get the spotlight back.
Yeah. That's going to be difficult to do. It's going to be Olympics for a significant chunk of it.
There's only two things he could do. One he won't do and one he will. The one he won't do is fire Vance.
Everyone was talking about that already, yeah.
But that, as good an idea that might be, that would make him look weak, and he hates that. It would admit that he made a mistake, and he hates that, so he's not going to do it. The thing he can do and will do, he'll have another rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, and he'll put another maxi pad on his ear.
Yeah.
And he'll try to get everybody to pay attention to me, pay attention to me. I don't think it's going to work a second time.
I don't think so. Speaking of the weird thing on his ear, that too is another area where weirdness reigns, and people are all ready to say, well, I saw a picture of him without the bandage in his ear, is fine. And then it turns out it's an old picture, but then there's another one, and maybe it's verifiably new, and I saw something, Pete Souza, the White House photographer, apparently had I guess he's still a photographer, he's just not at the White House, but he took a picture of Trump boarding a plane after something, and he didn't have the bandage on his ear, and the ear looks fine, and then weird thing happened, and all of a sudden Pete Souza's Twitter account was gone, and now it's a question of, somebody accused Elon Musk of kicking him off for showing that, and then somebody else said no, Pete Souza decided to leave Twitter, but I don't know why he would leave Twitter all of a sudden now, although there's always been good reason to leave. It wasn't moving him off of Twitter, but I don't know. But that's just another thing that people spend time on. Because he's weird, everybody has to walk around saying maybe he is, over dramatizing the injury and making it look like, and now forcing Ronnie Jackson to put out another letter saying, no, he was horribly wounded. He's a very strong individual for even continuing with his life at this stage. It's just more weird stories. It doesn't matter even. It's just such a great setup for a million things that may or may not be true, may or may not be coming from the campaign. There's an open platform for organic accusations of weirdness against Trump and having it plug into the campaign. And if it's not true, they can say, hey, we didn't say it. I don't know. But lots of people have individual reasons for believing this guy is weird, and that part is true. This is really good.
So Harry Enton is currently on CNN pointing out that in February, enthusiasm from Democrats for Biden was at 62. For Harris now, it's 88.
All right.
Enthusiasm. Republicans for Trump, February 80, now 82. He's not budging.
Okay.
But Harris is surpassing him. Harris will surpass him in every way, including the vote total. But, a lot of upside for Harris, not much for Trump. He's hit his ceiling. He's at his peak. Everybody is feeling a little sorry for him because he got shot at. Doesn't really matter whether it's shrapnel or a bullet. The head of the FBI said he wasn't sure. The FBI said, it was probably a bullet fragment. So what? Doesn't matter. It was still a maxi pad on his ear for no reason. And, he can't duplicate that. He can't recreate it and do his
shoot him in the
hits,
other ear. Yeah.
Which is what he's going to try to do in Butler.
You're serious about that? He's going back?
Yeah.
That's something. Well, okay. Yeah. So he's all about the repetition, and I don't know. This worked
they can't stop
once.
Me. I refuse to be intimidated. Yeah, whatever.
All right, but continue to do it in Butler, Pennsylvania. By the way,
if I were you, I'd put somebody else on that roof.
Yes, right. That's another. Just tip.
You want to do over? Do that over.
Pro tip for the FBI and Secret Service. You're going to want to make sure that there's nobody in the line of sight there. Be careful. By the way, the whole thing about, was it bullet fragment, glass fragments, etc.
He was wounded. It was his blood.
Yeah, none of that makes any difference, except I will say that in all the years of covering gun fail stuff, that used to be the case, that people are defending their positions with fanaticism no matter what. But many times bringing up issues, gun fail issues, people were injured in gun accidents. And when people would say, no, that one, they were hit by fragments of something that the bullets hit, and it doesn't count for that.
Yeah, can I ask you a question?
And yeah.
Do you know the difference between a clip and a magazine?
I do now.
So why is it that people are now saying the details don't matter?
Yeah, exactly. Right. When they need it to matter, or when
it's all that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the Trump campaign gets really upset when you question it.
Yes.
And they try to intimidate you into not asking.
Right.
That's what can't happen. And so if news reporters simply want to go into the details as they would about anybody else, about anything else who's running for president,
sure,
they should do it. They are going to do it. Too bad for you. It's got nothing to do with conspiracy theory.
Yes. I mean, sometimes it lives in the same neighborhood because of the JFK legacy. But I mean,
I don't
investigate
want to
these
go
things
into
to
that,
death.
not because we shouldn't, not because we can't, but I'd rather just stick with the fact that he's weird.
Yeah.
And you know what? Him questioning and bullying people, if they ask that question, that's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Right. You could answer.
Then again,
what are you so
about
concerned with it for? I was hit with something that shouldn't have hit me, and I'm bleeding because someone tried to kill me. That's enough. The end.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the place where it happened. I want to bleed for you again.
Right. I wonder, all right. Well, look, he's a weird guy, and it's a weird thing to want to do.
Remember when Christ was crucified? I'm doing it for you, but twice.
Yes, right.
What kind of message is that?
I don't know. It's a weird thing. It is weird. And there wasn't even a huge crowd in Butler, and there won't be a huge crowd in Butler this time either, because there's just not that many people in that area that want to go and stand out. When is this rally? Do we know? It doesn't.
No.
It's soon, and it's going to be hot, and you're not going to want to be there.
I just know that he declared he's doing it.
Right.
Do I believe him because he's a liar? Well, that's another thing. You got to remember he's weird and a liar and old. But
he's probably going to do something dumb like schedule it opposite the gymnastics final or something.
Yeah, where everybody will watch.
Yep. All right.
So there's a couple of articles also worth mentioning. This one is Ferris document in the New York Times today. Decoding JD Vance's brand of nationalism. She brings up an Adam Serra article from from the Atlantic about 2 weeks ago.
The
theme is the same. Vance is weird because he's now trying to come up with the idea that America isn't an idea.
I don't even understand
America is
that.
our history.
Okay.
The reason that is insidious is it means people who don't belong to that history aren't as American as people who are. So if you're white and you've been here a while, you're really American.
I see.
But if your parents were not Americans but came to America and you were born here, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, you're not really American. That's what he's saying.
Well,
if you are, you're not as American as the rest of us.
Then you're not really...
History's more important than an idea.
You're not really an educated Ivy Leaguer then. Bye. Get out of here. I don't know. He's a weirdo. That's for sure. And what can I tell you? You decided you were going to insult 3/4 of America. Awesome. Great job. Everyone loves pilgrims, though.
Yeah.
Great. Maybe he'll get a larger percentage of the vote among I don't know, Cape Codders.
Yeah, our friend Man Hatter, listening to the show, Elron50, says, "Hey, don't forget Trump still has his sentencing in September."
Good point, right?
That's
it's delayed.
Thing back in the news, but not in a good way, not with something he likes.
Yeah, he's 2 weeks late for his sentencing. That was supposed to be 2 weeks ago. That would have been some timing. But yeah, delayed till September. That's kind of interesting all by itself. No one's going to be paying attention in August. Would it have been better for him to have been sentenced in August? It's a good question. Is he sentencing before or after Labor Day?
It's after Labor Day.
Aha. So 1, he can't wear white pants at sentencing. And 2, we hope that he's wearing orange pants when he leaves.
Yeah, Exactly.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
we shall see.
Striped
Anyway,
pants.
that's it for me. That catches
Okay.
you up in everything you
It
missed.
does. There's no room for it, even if you wanted to go for it. Well, you could, actually. Once or twice
I'm sure
we
Trey
actually
Gowdy
did
had
that.
more things to say, but I just thought that was remarkable. Coming from a Republican pinhead, led Benghazi, to say that about Vance tells you everything you need to know about that really weird choice that Trump made, which, by the way, reflects on his judgment. There you have the summary of the show.
All right.
Thank you, God.
Excellent. We thank you all. And that's how Trey Gowdy would handle it, too. Now let's pray and thank God for this weird week that we had. All right. Who would have thought? I don't know what would be less likely that I would come back on the air and have to talk about a vice presidential candidate maybe having sex with a couch, or that we'd be saying, you know who did a good job this week? Trey Gowdy. They're both pretty unlikely. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. And
I don't think you would have seen it otherwise.
no, absolutely not. There's no chance I would have been Trey Gowdy hunting. And it's Fox News. I guess it could have.
Right. In the 30 seconds left, who's your
Made it
VP
onto-
choice for Harris?
I was going to say, I think Weird Al Yankovic.
I'm sorry, we're out of time.
Okay. But there's a difference. You see, we get to keep saying weird, but weird in a good way. And just to refine the point, they're actually weird in the bad way. Don't feel bad if you're weird in America.
My leading candidates are Walz and Buttigieg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about Buttigieg, but look, these are normal people who can go on Fox and talk to normal folks. They're from the Midwest. They're
Yes.
white and from the Midwest. Have I mentioned that they're Midwest and white males? Tim Walz is not only extremely fluent in being normal, but he's also a ex-military and an ex-football coach. He can go on Barstool Sports and talk to those people.
Football coach. Well, you know,
So can
that
Buttigieg,
makes
because
up
he
for
can
a
do it
lot.
all, but he can also do it in Norwegian. So, he's got everything. So those
That's
are my
pretty
two
cool.
main choices. The rest are strategic, but as I say, it's not because you carry your state, you usually don't. So Kelly's probably the leading candidate, but he's not an executive, and Harris said she wants an executive. So Walz and Buttigieg and Walz.
Okay. Well, it's something to think about. There was a weird moment, by the way, in the beginning of the week when the punditry sort of I tried to put out feelers like, okay, well, if it doesn't necessarily have to be Harris. What about Manchin, Joe Manchin?
Well, that's the thing.
That was
it
awesome.
lasted about 30 seconds. So when Harris picks Roy Cooper because
Yeah.
she likes him, we'll just say, okay, fine.
Okay, I guess. Well, we'll have to say. I don't know. Well, but not Joe Manchin. Everybody was pretty clear on that one, and that was a big ding against the punditry, and everybody said, shut up. You're weird, too. And now we don't have to listen to that anymore. Thanks, Greg. See you on Wednesday. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Net Roots Radio. I forgot how to do the show in the week that I was off. So one of the things I forgot to do was open up all of my social media inputs, essentially. And now I forget what they basically are and what I usually have open. So, there's that. And so I missed all the notes from Mad Hatter and other people chiming in via social media. And but I'll catch up with all of that. By the way, I also wanted to thank Darwin Darko for his contribution of a Kamala Harris related topic that I was able to include in the Monday pre-recorded show, and it almost looked like we knew what was happening. When I say we, I mean Darwin, but he gave it to me, so I get to be a part of it too. And it looked like we were on topic with Kamala Harris content pre-recorded and set up for you I probably set it up on Wednesday, Thursday of the previous week so that it would be available for you on Monday, and it made us look super cool and prescient. And as it turns out, well, at least according to one listener who may or may not be my mom, and is, the Thursday rerun, we did both Tuesday and Thursday of last week, rerunning our episodes of our discussion of the last Democratic National Convention 2020, when, as it turns out, Kamala Harris was nominated as vice president, and now she's going to be the nominee for president. And so also good, topical stuff. But apparently, I have to go back and listen to the August, I guess the show we used on Thursday would have been like August 20th, 2020. And apparently I did a pretty good job warning everybody about the danger of Marjorie Taylor Greene before most people knew who the F she was, because she hadn't been even elected yet. And so I'll go back and take a listen to that. But apparently also some things about weirdness of Trump and the people around him, and the things that he, I guess, had in mind to try to do. And it sounded like far-fetched science fiction-y type stuff about how he would be, either how he would be ignoring court rulings or how the court could, in fact, with his 3 picks on it, do some extraordinarily weird and unpredictable things, I guess. I don't know. I'll have to go back and find out what I was talking about back in August of 2020. But apparently it went over pretty big, at least with Mom, which, that's the thing should go over big. But I hope the rest of you found the same thing to be true. Okay, so there's an awful lot that we could catch up on. Every pocket is jam-packed with stuff that on a normal day we would absolutely be diving into. But so many other weird things to say about the weird ticket over there. I don't think to tell you about, I don't know. Maybe it's probably better if we just continue to vaguely hint at other things like the dolphin, which I'm not sure I can explain exactly. Neither can I explain exactly the monkey thing, but apparently that too. The door is wide open for connecting JD Vance with a number of very, very, very strange things. In the normal news for today, one, the Olympics started. Hooray, that was great. I've been having a good time watching it. There's good sports on TV. That's nice. I don't have regular television channels anymore, and increasingly that's an issue for a lot of people. So I'm having to watch it via streaming services, which is also a strange experience in itself, but affords you the opportunity to watch a lot of weird sports. And it's a very big time for weird right now. So that's been fun and interesting. More people would be, I guess, if you turn to the news, for your politics, then you would be hearing about Joe Biden, as Greg reminded us, endorsing these new proposals for Supreme Court reform. I will note for the record that he did it under his own name himself in the Washington Post, that they have afforded him an opinion column. Thanks for giving the President of the United States a platform. But he wrote an op-ed about it. My plan to reform the Supreme Court and ensure no president is above the law. We got the basics of it. This sort of set-piece presidential thing is the kind of stuff I ordinarily ignore, speeches, etc. I don't love it, but I do need to acknowledge that it happened and that he's serious enough about it. And it may be that he was going to do it anyway. It may be that, liberated from the obligation of campaigning, he thought that this was something he could undertake. I'm fairly certain that he'll find Kamala Harris in agreement with a lot of this as well. It may be that she wants to go farther. I don't know. But no conflict, I'm sure, with the successor campaign. Anyway, I want to acknowledge that he did do this op-ed, and the Washington Post printed it, so that by itself means it's a big deal. A president has said it, and they are editorializing about it in the papers. All right. But getting back to the kind of thing that, I guess before we get back to the kind of thing that I usually prefer to spend my time on, I would also acknowledge that there is international news also hinted at by Greg, and that we really need to straighten out, and it is the Venezuelan elections. And there are a number of troubling aspects to it, including the now proliferation around the world of claims by candidates for president of various countries that the voting is rigged or hacked, or there is something else otherwise untrustworthy about it, and making it difficult for democracy to work. Yeah, always a bad thing. Here's the AP's coverage of it from from Venezuela. The Venezuela election as it happened, and this is, I guess, their timeline of the whole thing. Maduro declared the winner. Gonzalez, however, claims victory. And lots of claims back and forth about problems surrounding the reliability of the election, and that's not great for us here in the United States, although I will point out that we also had the same thing happen, predictably enough, with Brazilian elections. Predictable not because there's any inherent problem with Brazilian democracy. I mean, there are inherent problems with Brazilian democracy, but nothing for us to be pointing at. But because Bolsonaro was a Trump clone of sorts, and of course he was going to try and do that, and yet they tossed him out on his ear and put him on trial. So, you tell me who's doing it better. What'll happen in Venezuela? Cannot make that prediction for you. Don't know enough about the situation. And even if I thought I did know, I'd probably be wrong about it. It's another country with its own political culture, to which I'm not privy. I can only read about it in, among them, the Associated Press. So they are keeping an eye on the situation for us. The latest entry in there, as it happened, running commentary, I guess, from 2:30 this morning. Opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez says the struggle will continue. What does that mean? I don't know. But after electoral authorities declared Maduro the winner, and everybody has their questions about that, opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez said that all the rules were violated. The opposition demanded the electoral authorities present all the voting tallies issued by the voting machines to verify the results. A familiar complaint. But, what do you do? It's one of the problems with these complaints being boy who cried wolf type situations. If it were actually true, how would you be able to tell the difference? So you can see the conundrum. And I certainly I wouldn't be able to untangle it in this country, much less in Venezuela. So all I can say is, keep an eye on that one. We'll be back. If you're much more comfortable talking about people who are weird and people who are enjoying pointing at the other weirdos, we can handle that. Here's one segue back to that. I noticed this as well when the comment came out, but Steve Bannon has cataloged it for us over at Maddo blog. Trump says Harris shouldn't be, quote, allowed to run, which he noticed is in fact, and in keeping with the theme, recycling a weird claim that Trump makes all the time. Long story short here, of course, when Trump ran the first time and Hillary Clinton was his opponent, he said Hillary Clinton, for various reasons, ought not to be allowed to run. And when he was running against Joe Biden, he too ought not to have been allowed to run. And now Kamala Harris is his opponent, and guess what? Like the Hannibal Lecter joke that he tells everywhere because it worked once, Kamala Harris should not be allowed to run. Steve Bannon has more detail on it, saying that for nearly a decade, Donald Trump has said those who stand in his way shouldn't be allowed to run for office. Kamala Harris has now joined the list because she's now joined the list of his political opponents. So he just makes the same accusation over and over again. And in his first rally since President Joe Biden withdrew from the 2024 race, Donald Trump did exactly what everyone expected him to do. That's why they go to the rallies. The Republicans spent much of the event going after Vice President Kamala Harris. The former president's case against his new rival, however, has tended to rely heavily on vague name-calling. Wow, what a strategy. Trump called the likely Democratic nominee a lunatic, for example, but it's not as cool as weird, so you lose. But during his pitch in North Carolina, one of the GOP nominee's lines of attack stood out. Kamala Harris shouldn't even be allowed to run for president, what she's done. She's committing crimes. He keeps saying that, too. That's another one. He's also now calling her Crooked Kamala, which is, I guess weirdly hilarious because, he spent so much time. Same thing. Crooked Hillary, she can't be allowed to run. Crooked Joe Biden, he shouldn't be allowed to run. Oh, yeah, Crooked Kamala, she shouldn't be allowed to run. Same accusation, same nickname. this is a very limited, person we're talking about here mentally. He just doesn't have the imagination to come up with anything else. He's tired because he's old. He doesn't want to work on it. He's just going to say, these things have worked for me before. And when I say work, I mean they have never netted me a popular vote victory. They have handed me at least one electoral college defeat. And possibly I cheated in the first one. So it's not like it really works. It's just I'm still alive and they haven't put me in prison. That works for me. That's what I call working. And if I want to, I can use a golden toilet and I have a limousine available to me. So I think that's rich lifestyle. I'm going to just keep doing the same thing over and over again. But it's almost as if he were trying to help me reinforce the point that every Republican accusation is a confession, right? If you didn't hear me the first time, I will make the same accusation/confession a second time. You didn't hear me again, I'll do it a third time. I'm telling you I'm guilty of incredible volumes of crime across various sections of the U.S. Penal Code. But no one will listen to me. I don't know why. Anyway, so that's what he's been doing. The Republicans' followers naturally cheered the rhetoric. Here is an embedded tweet from Kamala HQ, which has been doing a masterful job. I think maybe the team from New Jersey that was brought into the White House has perhaps shifted over or passed on its lessons in social media savvy to the Kamala Harris team, if it wasn't them themselves. Anyway, let's see what they embedded from Kamala HQ. Trump claims Kamala Harris, quote, shouldn't even be allowed to run for president because she's, quote, committing crimes. Parentheses, he is literally a convicted felon. They should be borrowing my line here that every Republican accusation is a confession. It's a good one. It's got online cachet, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not as cool. So anyway, and then they embedded the video of him probably saying in his stupid voice with those idiotic fish lips that get pursed for no reason. Even when the word I'm pronouncing doesn't call for pursed lips, I'm still pursing the lips. That's part of what gives my voice the sound of weirdness. Saying, okay, well, she's committing crimes. What crimes? The crime of being supported by her supporters. That was the big press release they put out the other day. She's so crooked, she's got the backing of many, many people and their money. So that, I don't know. Anyway, Bannon continues, there is a degree of irony to the comments. A jury recently found Trump guilty of nearly 36 felonies. If Harris shouldn't be allowed to run for president because she's committing crimes, which she's not, then I suppose we should look forward to the former president delivering a withdrawal speech of his own. Logic is so funny. Anyway, what's more, insisting the Democratic vice president is committing crimes would be less ridiculous if Trump had any evidence of Harris actually, committing any crimes. But of particular interest was the GOP candidate's suggestion that his likely Democratic rival shouldn't even be allowed to run for the White House. If the comment rang a bell, there's good reason for that. In October of 2015, Trump said Hillary Clinton shouldn't even be allowed to run for president. February 2016, Trump said Ted Cruz was, quote, not allowed to run for president. In March of 2016, Trump said John Kasich shouldn't have been allowed to run against him in the GOP primary. October of 2020, Joe Biden shouldn't have been allowed to run for president. All linked, of course. And now, July 2024, Trump says Kamala Harris shouldn't even be allowed to run for president. Part of the problem here is that the Republican nominee is getting lazy, recycling stale insults, nicknames, and attacks. But just as notable is the fact that Trump has long taken a keen interest in who should and shouldn't be allowed to run against him. And in a remarkable coincidence, he consistently argues that those who stand in his way are or should be ineligible for American ballots. Trump already earned a reputation as someone who was hostile toward democracy. This won't help. Not only that, it won't help even as an accusation against people. It's just dumb. It's an applause line at his events, but as you know, his events are not real life. So let's see. Other things to look at and enjoy. All right. I will bring you up to speed on JD Vance's weird problems. You probably heard about the dolphin thing. I can't explain, I don't think, exactly the dolphin thing. As best I can understand it is, I don't know, he wanted to make some point somewhere, and he was circulating on social media an article about I don't even know how to put it. I think the headline on the article, inexplicably, I don't know the background, I don't understand any of it. The headline on the article was something, the claim was that a woman somewhere, at some point in time, in some place, I don't know what it is, had been, as it said, all I can tell you, the headline said that she had been sexually assaulted essentially by a dolphin, which is a weird enough headline, and why are you reporting it, and did it really happen? And then the headline said that the woman reportedly, you'll have to forgive me, but the headline dumbly said the woman enjoyed it. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I guess it's supposed, it may be a politically loaded statement in a weird way about rapes. I have no idea. But that, one, I shouldn't even know that headline existed, first of all. But I do because JD Vance brought it to the world's attention, or tried to bring it to the world's attention. And anyway, the story developed because he circulated a screenshot, I guess, of this article. But it was clear that he had searched for certain terms because they were then highlighted in the search. And I don't know what the terms were, but apparently it was such that it suggested that he was making a search for, I would like to affirmatively find stories or depictions of women having some kind of sexual encounter with dolphins, which I didn't think was a thing, and it probably isn't a thing, and I don't know whether that's what I remember about the story, so that's what I searched, but I think the suggestion was that there were other search terms highlighted such that it made a plausible story in light of the couch story being viewed as plausible, I guess, that he was looking for this kind of material. And look, JD Vance is weird, and I'm willing to believe a lot about him. I have to put it that way. I said there was a monkey issue. I don't know whether there is one or there isn't one. However, Rolling Stone would like me to believe it. Tim Dickinson in particular wants us to know it. But of course, I think jumping on the bandwagon of Vance weirdness, and now it's an anything goes sort of a situation, they decided to play a little headline game with it. JD Vance has a burnt monkey testicle problem. And, burnt testicles, that's a problem anywhere. Unless, of course, by the way, speaking of one of the kings of weird, Tucker Carlson was allegedly a big influencer on the JD Vance pick. I told you he was an extremely online pick. And like Trump's sons are extremely online, or at least his older sons. And so is Tucker Carlson, and they were big influencers allegedly behind this pick. But Tucker Carlson, of course, maybe made his biggest splash in later years as being the guy who, this is a great idea to let him guide your vice presidential pick, extolling the virtues of artificially tanning your package, that it was extraordinarily important in his view. He actually did a whole show about it. It was somebody whose theory was that it was extraordinarily important to get, I guess ultraviolet light, I guess, that does the tanning to the testicles. And that they had a special machine that would focus directly on them. And boy, oh boy, there's no way to graphically demonstrate how you use the machine without running the risk of, running afoul of normal broadcast standards. Not that this is a normal broadcast or anything. But two, you're just not going to look powerful, cool, or manly doing this. It's just not going to happen. But they tried it anyway. Anyway, burnt testicles. Not human burnt testicles done on purpose, but monkey burnt testicles done on purpose. I don't even know how you get the monkey on the machine. That's not what they're talking about. It's worse. Get serious. The GOP Ohio Senate nominee's investment in a biotech firm. Here's the germ of truth in all this. The biotech firm that does testing on live animals is raising questions about his true values. And I guess this was maybe a personal investment, but remember that he worked briefly in private equity, which is a weird thing to do because, I mean, you do make a tremendous amount of money in private equity, and it would be very difficult to leave it. But I believe they asked him to leave it. He apparently not that good at making investment choices for himself or other people. This is not a new article. It is from October 25th, 2022. And I guess it didn't register with people. They were busy getting ready for Halloween. They did not notice that he had a burnt monkey testicle problem, and they elected him to the Senate from Ohio anyway. That could mean any number of things. They enjoy burning monkey testicles in Ohio. Don't know. But it just didn't register with people. But now, couch, dolphin, monkey, and we're going to read about it. What kind of man profits from scalded monkey junk? Well, here's one. On a campaign trail, Trump endorsed Ohio Senate nominee JD Vance. Leans into the hard Scrabble upbringing he wrote about in Hillbilly, can't say that, Elegy. He rails against universities and the abuses of big tech. He blasts COVID mandates, encouraging distrust without evidence of the long-term risks of mRNA vaccines. A recent convert to Catholicism, if that has anything to do with it. Vance insists he's 100% pro-life, but in his life away from politics, Vance is a venture capitalist, and his values as an investor are far muddier. His VC firm, Narya, Narya, is an investor in Hallow, a prayer app that's caught flack for allegedly seeking to profit off the intimate religious data of its users. That's an odd thing all by itself. Or should I say weird. Narya is also a backer of Rumble, the far-right, quote, free speech video service that competes with YouTube in the same way the noxious Gab counters Twitter back from before when it was not needed to counter anything. But anyway, you get the idea. Before Elon Musk. Platforming noxious creators who've been kicked out of more respectable corners of the internet. And of course, now they can go back to Twitter. Anyway, Vance's VC firm also backs a $200 million biotech startup called Amplify Bio. In addition to Narya's holdings, Vance declared he personally owns as much as $100,000 in the company's non-public stock, according to a recent SEC disclosure. Then recent, in 2022 anyway. The drug testing firm has been lauded in the local press as part of Ohio's transition from a Rust Belt decay to high-tech rebirth. The firm touts its mission as advancing science for humankind, which will not, is not supposed to be a thing that Republicans are into. They don't like humankind, nor science. Anyway, but behind the gleaming walls of its Columbus area campus, Amplify Bio operates a disturbing enterprise, to say the least. Its core business is testing experimental drugs developed by other companies. Amplify Bio tests many of these substances on live animals, including monkeys and dogs. And, who's not vice president? The lady who shot the dog. So, there you go. Oh, by the way, JD Vance, also not vice president. Candidate for vice president, but not vice president. You know who is vice president? Kamala Harris. Well, anyway. Many of these animals die in the course of toxic testing exposures. Other animals are destroyed at the conclusion of testing. There are also dreadful mistakes. A lab monkey recently died after getting wedged in faulty lab equipment, and a technician error left other monkeys with burns on their genitals. So I guess it's not the aim of the company to do this, but it did happen. You get the idea? The Vance campaign did not respond to detailed questions from Rolling Stone about the GOP nominee's investment ethics and how they align with the principles he espouses on the campaign trail. Narya also did not respond to a request for discussing its investments. In particular, the research conducted at Amplify Bio also calls into question if Vance's far-right religious values end where his profit motives begin. Of course they do. Amplify Bio tests cell therapies and other drugs that are likely derived from stem cell lines, including those recovered from aborted fetuses or live embryos. Such stem cell research drives vital innovation in modern healthcare, but is anathema to those on the religious right who contend that life begins at conception. Guess what? He's a big faker, and if there's money to be had from it, he will go and grab it. Okay, well, if you had any doubts about him, you were right. He's also very weird. So there you go. Anyway, I don't think it will work the same way as the couch thing, although I can't even explain why that worked, but it did. And maybe it's Norwegian. I don't know how you translate JD Vance Burns monkey genitals into Norwegian, but I guess, you can check it out via Google over the break and let us know. If it comes out in a way that makes us believe that he did it, so much the better. Hi everybody, it's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I think that's really all you need to know about the background of the monkey thing. So in case the monkey thing catches on, you will be ahead of the curve on that. And that's part of the function of the show, is sometimes trying to, well, I like to think, spotting these things slightly before they break into the wider mainstream, which, again, as fun as it is, and as much fun as it is to pretend that it's a special talent, it is not. And not that you shouldn't support or indulging it anyway, but this is stuff that's reported usually in the what others refer to as the mainstream media. But I don't know, we say it hasn't broken wide yet. That is to say, it hasn't passed the normie test yet. Are people talking about it? Has it been reported? Yes. And sometimes to the great credit of the outlets that do it, sometimes not, but to the minimal credit then, at least, of the outlets that report it. But it just hasn't really caught on yet. And sometimes it just takes time. Sometimes it's the same article that people are seeing, but over time. And sometimes it's re-reporting the same stuff, but in outlets that more people read. I don't know what the dynamics of it are, but occasionally we are able to read you a story that you repeat to your friends, and then they say, where the hell did you hear that? And sometimes the answer is here, and sometimes the answer is, I can point you to the actual article that they read on the air about it, too. So in an effort to get ahead of the next one, if there's a possibility that you haven't read this one, in the New York Times, I don't know if you've heard of the New York Times, very, regional publication here, East Coast thing. They've done another New York Times thing. And they've printed a very long story about a number of things, but one of the things that comes up in it is a I don't know what to say here, a right-wing talking point weird thing, and weird comes up again here, that had eluded me up until now, but apparently it's a thing and it's going to break wide in the next couple of weeks because they're discussing it in the New York Times, and that is the med bed, which essentially is a science fiction dream that has become a Republican fever dream. That, long story short, I don't know if you ever saw the movie or I only see movies. I don't read books. I'm sure this is a science fiction. I'm sure it was based on a book, and all the science fiction fans know it, and they'll roll their eyes and groan when I say the movie Passengers. And they're, in outer space. It's a futuristic thing. They have a thing called the auto dock on this spaceship that they're on, that in the absence of actual medical personnel being there, you lie down in this chamber and it magically, science-ishly fixes anything that's wrong with you. So I guess they've taken that idea and run with it, and they've decided, I guess, what can I tell you? They believe that these things actually exist and that they can cure any disease. And the reason we're not out there curing every disease with them is, of course, well, what would be the reason why this fabulous, miraculous thing isn't reaching the people? Obviously, the answer is liberals are in the way of doing that, because liberals famously hate providing health care to the ailing folk out there. Nothing liberals hate more than bringing medicine to remote areas, or trying to offer universal health care, or any of those things. Every time liberals try to do that, of course, conservatives stop them for freedom. But now we have miracle med beds that will cure anything. And I mean anything. They really do believe this. And it's the liberals that are stopping them from being able to enjoy it. And, of course, they believe that Donald Trump, should he be elected, he will provide it to all of them for free. These med beds, by the way, are kept at secret military bases, on underground bunkers, so that regular people like you can't access them. But Trump will use the military to bring medical miracles to everyone, which, by the way, should be a familiar promise. It is one that he made on October 8th, 2020, after the Walter Reed doctors miserably failed the trolley problem and allowed him to survive his COVID. And he came back saying he had been given a great cocktail of drugs, and that this miracle cure, I call it a miracle, I call it a cure, it's not a cure, but it's a cure, I call it a cure, and I will bring it to everyone, all vulnerable seniors. I love the seniors. They say they're vulnerable, but I say they're very strong. Anyway, he made his whole promise. He videoed himself on the White House lawn promising to use the military to deliver this miracle cure to all vulnerable seniors who need it in America free of charge. And then I'm going to go inside and I'm going to sign an executive order to do this. I mean, this was one of the most vicious lies he's ever told, given the circumstances. And it's very much forgotten. And as you know, he's flooded the zone everywhere. And this is why the weird attack works so well. It encompasses everything. I don't know what the worst thing is. Emoluments? 14th Amendment stuff? I don't know. It's hard to tell. The rapes, the sexual assaults, the racism, I don't know. Everybody has their own answer to it. But to me, one of the most vicious lies he's told in connection with his political career was in the middle of the panic surrounding the pandemic. We're still not sure what the hell this thing is exactly or how to combat it, but we're making some progress medically, but there's still no vaccine. It is October of 2020. The president of the United States is very nearly struck dead, damn it, by COVID, in the middle of promising everybody, don't worry about it. It's like the flu. It's not bad. You don't have to wear a mask. It smudges your makeup. Maybe you should drink a fish tank. There could be all kinds of cures, like injecting bleach into your lungs. Who knows? I'm very smart. My uncle was at MIT once and for many years. All right. So all of this, and Trump comes back, and he's been treated by actual science and actual medicine, and they saved his life, which was a mistake. because I really do think that was a mistake. Not only because we have to deal with them politically, but imagine how many deaths from COVID could have been prevented if the message was, nope, it's real, it's serious, it's not just the flu. The guy who kept telling you not to worry about it has just been struck effing dead by this virus. You need to get when it comes out, take the vaccine. The masks are there, put them on. Here's a guy who said, no, it's not all necessary. No, they're not telling you the truth. Dead. People who listen to science, alive. So I think that they could have saved a lot of lives. But anyway, no, he decided not to do this and instead followed the other path. Well, okay. So anyway, I don't even know where I was with this whole thing. Lots of people have these weird ideas about the medicine. We're back to the med beds thing, right? Okay, so he was going to deliver the fabulous miracle cure to you with the army. And now they are out there believing, quite independent of all this apparently, that there are miracle cures that Trump will... Trump hasn't even promised this yet, but they're doing the work for him. Trump will deliver these things to us for free with the military. Okay, so longer story here, a huge long story in the New York Times, which I haven't read through, but is recommended to me, again, by Mom. So, if I believe her about the other thing being good, then I should believe her about this one, too. But I didn't even get to read it yet, but I did read excerpts from it. What we'll do, by way of covering this thing, is read to you from No More Mr. Nice blog, which is, it's a blog that we have read from many times in the past, and we hear from the writer and proprietor as No More Mr. Nice Guy on the various social media all the time. And he weighs in quickly with a critique of this story, which I think rings true to me, and I'm more interested in that than I am in the actual story right now. But he gives the flavor of what the story is about. So when you go and read, if you haven't already read this New York Times story, maybe you read it with this critique in mind. No right-wing villains, please. We're the New York Times is the title of his piece about this. The New York Times, he notes, has just posted a long story, more than 3,600 words, 20 and a half minutes in the audio version, which would mean approximately 6 to 7 weeks for me to read through on this show. And it's about people who belong to an online community called Patriot Party News, which I think I actually have heard about a little bit in passing, which features conspiratorial right-wing chat and promotes medical quackery. Now, that happens a lot, right? What does he mean when he says conspiratorial right-wing chat? Well, he says it. When I say it, I mean this. And here's the quote from the New York Times article, and a lengthy quote at that. In a fracturing country, here was an echo chamber with the power to turn fringe conspiracy theories into widely accepted political dogmas. Oh no, that's problematic. It's bad, right? Things like that the COVID vaccine was really poison. The mainstream media was deceitful, and the federal government was controlled by a deep state cabal that had stolen the 2020 election for former President Donald J. Trump and was now trying to orchestrate his assassination. Now, time out. I'm still in the middle of this quote from the New York Times. I have to point this out. I am now reading to you an article from the New York Times, which is all about how all of those stupid conspiratorial things that they just named that the Patriot Party News people believe are untrue. They are debunking them. They debunk. I don't know if they actually spend any time debunking them, but they're debunked. They're dumb. They're wrong. It's not true. The COVID vaccine, not poison. Mainstream media, not deceitful in the main. And the federal government is not controlled by a deep state cabal that had stolen any 2020 election. The 2020 election wasn't stolen. It wasn't. Why am I telling you this? Because today, when I post the audio from this on YouTube, YouTube is going to flag this show as conspiratorial. Because I'm telling you that the New York Times reported that these debunked dumb conspiracy theories are believed by dumb people who don't want to believe the debunking. And in an effort to protect us all from these idiots, the New York Times will tell you these are very sympathetic people. They're just reaching out because they're in pain. Meanwhile, YouTube is going to tell you that I'm the conspiracy nut here for telling you what conspiracies these nuts believe. It's unfair and wrong, but that's because people aren't doing the work in all this. It's fabulous AI that's going to make everybody a billionaire after burning the planet to death further. I don't know. It's annoying, and it has to be pointed out. We're going to watch this happen. It's gonna go this way, but it's not going to get in the way of my distributing the video, I hope. Thank God. But anyway, back to the New York Times actually telling you this story, which is not me claiming these things, YouTube. It is a New York Times published story, and why not kick them off of social media if you're going to do this to me? Anyway, more quotes from the New York Times. All right, where were we? Right, everything is conspiracy nuts. Now, here's somebody using Patriot Party News to commune with other people who just need to be understood. I saw somewhere this morning that the vaccines killed more people than Hitler and Stalin combined, said a woman who went, ironically enough, by the name Truth and Freedom Fighter. Probably not much of a fighter, but also not very interested in truth. Freedom, maybe, maybe not. For her, yes, you know. It's genocide, 100%, Michael said as he pulled himself out of bed. I want handcuffs and perp walks for all these criminals, said someone else. Who goes first, Fauci, Obama, or Biden? So that's what we mean when we say conspiratorial right-wing chat. And when we say medical quackery, our writer tells us, I mean this. What sort of medical quackery? Of all the wild conspiracies he's discovered on Patriot Party News, the concept of med beds. I had never heard of it. Med beds has initially struck Michael as the most far-fetched, even if it was also among the most popular. But of course, it struck him as most far-fetched. But what does he end up doing? Saying, yes, I believe in it. Let me pay and have some of this stuff. Every few days, someone else on the platform shared an illustration of a futuristic-looking chamber, sometimes with a doctored image of Trump superimposed in the foreground, like he was inventing it. Look at me, I'm busy inventing, everybody. The founder of the site, Armour, A-R-M-O-U-R, we find out who that is later. It's an actual person, an actual snake oil salesman by the surname of Armour. Sometimes mentioned videos or podcasts about med beds that had become popular in the far right corners of Telegram, Discord, and Rumble. And Michael clicked on the links, as did millions of others. The videos claimed, with no evidence, that the U.S. military was already in possession of advanced or possibly even alien technology. Right. That could cure all disease and extend human life. Hooray! I'm glad we have it. There were said to be at least 3 types of med beds already in existence. For all you dummies who think there was only one kind of med bed, no, there are 3 kinds. And they are not only already in existence, but they are being held in secret military tunnels. 1, the holographic med bed, scanned the body to instantly diagnose and then heal any sickness, no matter how severe. Now, there are things that do full body scans, but they don't, it's not like, well, also if you put a quarter in, it'll get rid of your cancer. It'll say, you got a tumor and it's here. Can't do anything about it or can do something about it, but it's not like, well, okay, I just erased your cancer. But in their view, maybe it is that. Another type of bed was able to regenerate personal DNA so that people could regrow missing limbs in a few minutes. How do you like that? That sounds like a pretty handy technology, especially for the military. But oddly, there are a lot of military veterans who are missing limbs and are probably wondering, why didn't they just give me my limb back if they could do that? And the answer is, liberals are preventing it, or we can't just give limbs to anybody, because then the Russians, not the Russians, they would like that. We like the Russians. The Chinese, and maybe we like them too. I don't know. The point is, somebody evil will find out about it. So it's better that we not actually do it. Because reasons. There's no there's a reason for it. And by the way, I'm not taking that vaccine because it replicates DNA. And there's a med bed that will replicate DNA. Oh, give me some of that. That I definitely want. All right? Well, anyway, a third kind of med bed is out there, and that has the capability of reversing aging and can rewind people's bodies to the age and condition of their choosing. Perfect. The only holdup, according to the videos, was that a collection of liberal billionaires, and there's dramatic music for that too, liberal billionaires kept hoarding the technology for themselves, although they are aging as well, which is kind of odd. And we're not really sure why that's happening. But liberal billionaires are hoarding the technology for themselves. On the Patriot Party News audio feed, people speculated that medbeds wouldn't be available to the public until Trump was back in control of the White House, at which point everyone would be invited to make appointments for free at a secret underground military base, which is notoriously easy to schedule time in. I don't know why they wouldn't move it out of the secret underground military base and into Trump Tower, for instance, where everybody would have to pay an admission fee when it was time to get to their appointment. But look, it's not a real thing, and it's just, you need to know how crazy the whole thing is. That's the detail of it. Now back to the narrative here. But and the critique. This isn't a story about toxic disinformation, and it's only glancingly about villains who commit medical fraud. It's about how this community of liberal haters is formed out of pain. And it's true that that's how the community is formed. But then it asks the readers, and not everybody agrees that this is the way it ought to be read, but this is an interesting take. It asks readers to feel sorry for people who want not to heal their own pain, not to come together as community for the good of mankind or anything like that. It asks readers to feel sorry for people who want to arrest Anthony Fauci for a mythical medical genocide, because some of them are desperate for a medical miracle themselves. So I really need medicine to help us. Let's arrest all the medical people who haven't either helped us yet or reasons. I don't know. Now here's the lead of the story. And, I'll just put it out there. Michael Cheeseborough. I guess he's spells his name like Ken Cheeseborough. But he awoke to the same reality as he did each morning. This is the setup. With pain radiating up his spine and into his shoulders before he opened his eyes. It's terrible, right? He remained still for a moment, summoning the courage to reach from his bed to his nightstand. He rolled onto his back, which was fused together with metal after almost 20 years as a paratrooper in the military. He extended his arm, which he had broken several times while wrangling bulls and horses on his ranch outside of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And finally, his hand found his cell phone, and he logged onto the online universe where he spent most of his days. This is the relief, by the way. You got fused back from being a paratrooper. You broke your arm 100 times working on your ranch. What's the relief? Is it medicine? No, it's please connect me to a community where we can hate liberals together. I don't know if I love this. This is not fantastic. But this is how he starts his day. How are we all doing this morning? Asked Michael, 63. I'm hurting again. Too much time spent jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. You served our country well, a retired teacher from Kansas responded. That's very nice, right? Hang in there, Patriot, a truck driver in Texas said. Remember, the pain's only real if you believe it. I don't know if that's great advice or a nice thing to say to somebody who's actually in physical pain, but there you go. He was trying to be nice. Distract me, Michael said. What part of our country is falling apart today? Now, why you would think that that's pain relief? Give me more. Tell me something terrible about my country. And blame it on liberals. That's the distraction he's looking for. On the other end of his phone were hundreds of people in a live voice chat for Patriot Party News, one of about a dozen far-right media platforms that has grown in both size and influence over the past few years, not only by creating an ecosystem of disinformation, but also by providing an authentic sense of community. Now, what's authentic about disinformation? I don't know. It's authentically true that several hundred idiots like disinformation enough to make this the first thing they want to do in the morning. Breakfast, prayer, exercise, physical therapy, medicine. Nope. Disinformation and hatred. All right. More commentary. I have no doubt that Michael Chisbro's pain is genuine. I'm sure it's terrible. But after years in which the Times, the New York Times, has demanded that we really get to know right-wingers, while rarely telling us about the vile things these trucker hat-wearing diner customers believe, we get this story in which some of the beliefs are made clear, but we're effectively told you can't blame the believers because they're hurting. Either they're hurting or they're just colorfully down home, like this excerpt. There was Bill, a farmer in central Wisconsin, whose frequent raves about Trump were sometimes difficult to hear over the roar of his tractor, and Val, a retired art teacher who sometimes read aloud from the Bible, and Keith, who had recently been paralyzed from the knee down by an infection and was relearning to walk, and Megan, a single mother of 5 who requested prayers for her child's flag football games. I think there's probably more important things out there, but, not to mom. I can understand that. And Janelle, who was facing foreclosure on her house in Illinois and trying to rehome all 30 of her cats. Oh, my God, I didn't realize it was cats. It's too bad I keep doing this. JD Vance. Remember JD Hayworth? He was a loudmouth Republican scream monster from ages ago. And I don't know, the JD stuck with me. But JD Vance, who knew that JD Vance hated, who's the cat leading this? Janelle. Sorry, Janelle, you're out. They're going to get rid of you. But there's also Jay, a real estate agent who spent his free time bass fishing. So weird and different. Anyway, Beverly, taking care of her husband who had advanced dementia because she couldn't afford to pay for help. It's too bad the liberals keep trying to give you help. Anyway, I'm hanging on by a thread, she said one night. It's very difficult to handle, and now he's difficult to handle, and now he hallucinates. Wow, he hallucinates? Okay. Most days I'm ready to give up, but going to bed listening to the chat on this platform is what saves my sanity. I have some bad news for you about your sanity. And you're not going to like it. The photos, by the way, chosen to illustrate the story are clearly intended to elicit empathy. There's, cowboy hat wearing, maybe that's Michael there, hugging his wife. There's a lot of hugging going on. Or if it's not to elicit sympathy, it's to romanticize the subject's way of life. Why, look, here's a beautiful sky and open ranch land. Well, not open ranch land because there's a fence in it. A cowboy hat and some boots and some flowers in the house here. Just folks. Well, we all know that many people who believe the most extreme right-wing conspiracy theories they're just a-holes. They're not necessarily in an extraordinary amount of pain, and they're not colorfully rural. They're the uncle who shows up at Thanksgiving and starts baiting everyone before he gets his coat off. They're the people with Joe and the Ho Gotta Go bumper stickers on their vehicles. I don't think I ever saw that one. They're not sympathetic figures. But in the New York Times, there are no villains in MAGA land. There are only people who need to be understood. Well, we need to understand. We're even supposed to like some of these purveyors of snake oil. And another excerpt. Then there was Andrea, the new owner of a MedBed spa. She was a nail technician, and so, why not get your medical treatment from the nail technician? But she was also a certified wellness coach, which is, by the way, the kind of thing that they normally dismiss as woke mind virus crap. But wellness coach who had specialized in diet programs until she decided in January to buy Baxter's products. We don't know who Baxter is, but we learn about him later. Or earlier, I guess. Baxter's products, and rent a building across the street from a hospital in Sheridan. So don't go to the hospital, come to me. We're still hoping to get FDA approved. But the whole process is so corrupt anyway, she said on the audio channel. You can't totally grasp the magic of these med beds, I guess, until you try it. Honestly, really? You're going to say honestly? Honestly, it's a God thing. Oh, really? Well, Andrea has decided to charge $85 an hour for this God thing. But insurance doesn't cover it, because it's an experimental treatment and it's not real. But she also doesn't believe in turning anyone away. She's a real philanthropist here. In a way, yes. In the past few months, people had arrived from across the West hoping for answers for their late-stage cancer, ALS, chronic depression and dementia. And Andrea let some of them use a med bed for free. She cooked for them. That's something, right? Found them places to stay. Also something. And held their hands to pray before they lay down in the med bed. I don't care if it means I'm losing some money, Andrea told Michael. I feel like I landed smack dab in the middle of my purpose on this planet. Andrea is the woman giving the big hug in the second photo that we were talking about. She's clearly meant to be a sympathetic figure. The chief purveyors of this phony technology appear only briefly. Warren Armour, the co-founder of Patriot Party News. That's the Armour. And John Baxter, whose company sells those med beds, which aren't real. They describe in flat, neutral language that the Patriot Party news feed includes regular segments on essential oils, unproven supplements, and ivermectin. And one morning, Armour came onto the platform and introduced another truth-seeking health expert. That's John Baxter. And he had spent his career in the Florida mattress industry before founding a company called Anti-Aging Beds, which had received a warning letter from the Food and Drug Administration in 2020 for selling unproven medication. Baxter introduced himself as the inventor and author of a self-published book, The Medbed Story, Restoring the Health of Humanity. This is the guy you're meant to feel sympathy for somehow.
NetworksRadio.com.
Unbelievable.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Well, of course, there's a lot more to it, and we can't cram it all in here today, but giving you an idea of what they're circulating in right-wing networks, and just giving you a heads up, you're going to start, I guess, hearing about these med beds, after all, in the near future. This way you'll understand the weirdness that they utter on their talk channels. We'll be back uttering our own weirdness tomorrow.